Hello everybody. It's Valerie here. I'm in my pantry. Just tilt you there and hopefully Teddy will not knock this over. On my way to work today and decided that I needed something warm to take with me into the car, which prompted me to then think about something. So as I'm making my tea, the thing that I really felt like having to this morning on the way to work in my keep cup, which my son so kindly decorated for me, look at that, is going to be rooibos tea with almond milk. Teddy, you need to go out, Teddy, because I have no confidence that you will not bump my tripod, which is sitting very weirdly in my pantry. Just realized. Hang on, I'll be right back. Yes, rooibos tea with almond milk, honey, and cinnamon. Honey from real bees, thanks to my friend Nada. Oh man. Oh, it has my least favorite rooibos tea here, the one with vanilla. I just don't understand. Why do you have to like spoil a perfectly good flavor by putting vanilla in it? Anyways, and I wanted to share with you a long time ago, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, when I was working overseas, I had a boss whose former job it was to scenario plan for the government in the country that I was in. It was all, as I gather, rather top secret, and really couldn't tell us very much about the scenarios, but he basically, that was his job, to scenario plan. And in the business that we were in, he therefore would scenario plan all these interesting alternatives to the future. And he was so good at it. He was so good at it that he basically built a business around it. So the business that we were in was in the business of careers counseling. And what he was doing was he was using scenario planning, all of his scenario planning skills, to forecast what the economic future would be for the country that we were in. And then to help fairly, senior students plan their careers, because one of the things that he was noticing was that students were making decisions based on some really, I guess, rudimentary information of what everybody thinks is going to be lucrative. And he was projecting scenarios based on what the economic future would be like. And I've got this memory of actually him saying that there would be a time when, of course, everybody knows IT is like the big thing, right? But things like artificial intelligence, cinnamon, I'm putting cinnamon, not something yucky like nutmeg. Do not like nutmeg. Would be, forgot what I was saying. Anyway, scenario planning. And what made me think about it today is, as a business owner, you can have a few reactions to, you can have two main reactions to what's happening with COVID-19. You can be absolutely terrified, or you could be absolutely energized. Maybe there's a third option, you don't care. But let me tell you, in my business, you don't have the option of not caring. You work with a fine team of people, and you take care of a fine group of people that you do care, you want to care. It's not an option. And in my thoughts as to, how do we actually stay afloat during this time? How do we not get swept by the panic and by the false data and false information? And it occurred to me that scenario planning is probably the thing that my former boss would say. You scenario plan. You contingency plan, not based on rummaging and trying to find toilet paper and tissue. I know we shouldn't laugh at this. But you kind of have to try to find the humor in this. And I went online to look for toilet paper because, I've got a practice and we've got our community, and I'd love to be able to say to anybody in our community that didn't have toilet paper, if it was causing them problems, here we've got a stash. And I went online, and the only toilet paper I could find online was toilet paper that had Donald Trump's face on it. I just don't know about that. Sidetracked. So scenario planning. boss would scenario plan. He would come alive. He would come alive. There was no fear. There was no anxiety. There was no doomsday about it. There was a bunch of realistic thinking as he looked at the data. He would analyze things, and he would have statistics, and there would be a couple of scenarios that he would come up with. And I suppose the contingency planning was not based on panic, but based on pacing yourself to not be afraid by the scenarios that you see. Here's the thing about worry. Most of the time, we are actually catastrophizing a scenario that we actually have not been brave enough to look square in the face. What do I mean by that? We might be catastrophizing that we're running out of food, we're running out of, our finances we're going to lose the house, we're going to, our kids are going to get sick, we're going to lose loved ones. Now, we may be actually holding those catastrophic thoughts in our head and not actually facing them. And one of the scariest things, but one of the most effective things to do is actually to turn around and to face that scenario and to actually crunch the data and the facts that you can have for what would lead to that scenario, but not just stop there. Also ask ourselves, in the worst case scenario, what are we likely to do? But also, in the best case scenario, what is it likely to look? What is it going to look like? Because the reality is that we've been able to live our lives, however old you are, 45 this year, I think, or 46 or something like that, through a bunch of adverse conditions and situations. And every adverse condition and every adverse situation has given us an element of wisdom. Wisdom being that blend of contextualized knowledge, knowing how to apply knowledge, and also being able to tap into our own instincts, intuition, and our feelings. And we've been able to come up with collective wisdom or collected wisdom for ourselves, such that every new situation that we now face, we're not starting from scratch. Yes, some financial situations may not look palatable. I'm not minimizing that at all. And yet we can still ask the question, what would be the worst case scenario? How would we deal with it? And what would be the best case scenario? And once you have those answers, the scenario planning is basically inclusive then of, this is who we need to speak to now. This is what we need to do now. This is the best that we can do right now for the situation that we have. And then put that scenario planning away. Put it away. You have done your job, you have done your best to look at it, you have looked it square in the face, you have confronted it, you've come up with ideas based on the resources that you have and based on the collective wisdom that you have. It's time to now put it away. Come back to it and revise it and evaluate it, not based on fear, not based on panic, but based on a scheduled, intentional plan to review it when you believe that it needs to be reviewed and adjusted. Okay, it's time for me to go to work. Cheers!